It is the intellectual capacity of individual that defines his leadership capacity. There will be many businessmen and women here today who have never read any piece of literature in their life in the area of their business. So they are running their business on common sense. And what can you get? Common results. Because like begets like. It's impossible for a cat to give size to a baby the size of an elephant. Like begets like. There will be people today in politics, in this place, who cannot define policy. That what is a policy is confused. He has never read any piece of literature in his life on budgeting, and now he's sitting down in parliament to make decisions on budget. That is commonplace in Africa. And I've been around Africa. This is my 28th nation in Africa this year.
Hello, King and Queens. It's Chosen Theater. I want to appreciate you all for always coming to my YouTube channel to watch my videos, to watch my content. Kindly listen to this one powerful message by Bishop David Oyedepo on what is leadership. I hope this message will transform your life. I hope this message will change your story. Kindly, if you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel, kindly subscribe, like, share, comment, so that YouTube algorithm can spread this message to so many people. I hope this message will transform your life. I hope this channel will impact your life. Remain ever blessed. Amen.
Thank you. Please remain be seated. Like the chairman of this event just said, I'd like to request that we all get ready for positive and plausible changes. It's interesting to know that people learn about everything except important things. You want to be a wristwatch repairer, you go to learn it. You want to be a motor mechanic, you go to learn it. You want to be an electrician, you go to learn it. But you see, there's a vacuum. There is almost nothing until recently being done about training for leadership. Yet, everything, like we are told, rises or falls on leadership. There is a story told many years ago about an old-timer who was an intellectual juggernaut. And he got on a boat one day. He picked a little rock in the boat and asked the boat boy, "Do you know anything about geology?" The boy said, "No." Then he got a little leaf somewhere where they were on the sea and showed the boy, "Do you know anything about zoology or biology?" He said, "No." First time he said, "Okay, you have lost 25% of your life because you don't know anything about geology." Then after I asked him about botany, whether he knows anything about botany, he said, "No." He said, "You have lost another 25% of your life." Then the sun was setting and he looked at the sun. He said, "Do you know anything about astronomy?" He said, "No." He said, "You have lost another 25% of your life." Then suddenly a storm arose on the sea. And the boy asked him, "Do you know anything about swimming?" He said, "No." "You have lost 100% of your life." So the boy dived into the water and swam his way to safety and left the old timer who knew everything about everything except life. Now it's interesting that somebody can go to school until he earns his PhD and know nothing about life. Some have never read one piece of literature in their life on finance, and they are constantly facing financial challenges. He knows nothing about budgeting, yet he's under stress. He borrows at all times. Because you can go through school for life without being taught one thing on finance. Now, everybody is getting married and having children, and they know next to nothing about marriage.
So they go as novice into it, and they pack it up anytime at will. Like, I think enough is enough. Go away, I go away. Because he knows nothing about it. Life is so valuable, it has no spare, yet people don't mind issues of life. I used to have a car that had no spare tire. So anytime you see anything on the road, you dodge it. You cannot tell what is inside. Now, see, even if you see an ordinary cellophane paper, you can't tell whether there was nail inside, you dodge it. Because you have no spare. No one here has a spare life. You have only one. So it's important to jealously guard it for maximum impact. Amen. It's important to jealously guard it for maximum impact. I met one of our great leaders in Africa years ago, and I asked him, what do you think is the greatest problem of our continent? He said, leadership. I said, what of number 2? He said, leadership. And number 3, he said, leadership. And how true that is. Every passenger in a vehicle is at the mercy of the driver. True or false? You can't be challenging a passenger that a vehicle had an accident. He wasn't there, he was on the back seat. The driver was the one determining where the vehicle went. So poor quality leadership is the greatest problem of Africa. Poor leadership quality is our greatest problem. Poor leadership quality. And it's common knowledge today to know that wherever education goes, there civilization goes. That means quality leadership is developed by knowledge. As far back as 2100 BC to 300 BC, Africa was leading in education, and then Africa was leading in civilization, with unusual feats accomplished in architecture, the building of the pyramids, unusual feats accomplished in medicine, the preservation of the dead. And today you are getting mummies out and looking the same after 3,000 years. Africa was the heavyweight of global education quality. And that time, Africa was leading civilization. Great agricultural feats, mining and smelting of ores were all began in Africa. But somehow, as we lost our place in education, we began to lose our place in civilization until we line up at the far behind now. Now, all Greek mathematicians, historians, sociologists, archaeologists, architects came into Egypt to receive their education. And eventually took over. And so civilization moved to Europe and got centered in the United Kingdom. And that tiny nation began to rule the entire world by virtue of enlightenment, intellectual development. And then the cloud moved and shifted to America. And America took over. Now today, out of the 10 leading world universities, 7 are in America alone. 2 are in Britain. That tells you where America is number 1, Britain is number 2. Now, it's so important that quality education or intellectual development is key to transformation and high-level leadership quality. Now, out of the first 200 world leading universities, 129 are in America alone. So America is not a world leader by commerce and industry. America is leading the world by the quality of our intellectual property. It is. This is so important that Africa can never come out of the woods until we begin to revamp and recover our educational heritage. I don't mean schooling. Everybody goes to school. Schooling enhances your capacity for literacy. It is not education. Now see, education is your investment in knowledge in the area of your calling. You become literate by going to school, but it is investment in literature that creates your actual future. So, the developed world took their literary heritage to advance their individual development. And so, they became creative and innovative and start setting the pace for the remaining part of the world. This is so important to know that it is the intellectual capacity of individual that defines his leadership capacity. There will be many businessmen and women here today who have never read any piece of literature in their life in the area of their business. So they are running their business on common sense. And what can you get? Common results. Because like begets like. It's impossible for a cat to give size to a baby the size of an elephant. Like begets like. There will be people today in politics, in this place, who cannot define policy. That what is a policy is confused. He has never read any piece of literature in his life on budgeting, and now he's sitting down in parliament to make decisions on budget. That is commonplace in Africa. And I've been around Africa. This is my 28th nation in Africa this year. I've had privileges of having chats with different levels of people, and the disease is common. Because we do most of our things on common sense platform, so we only get common sense results. Because like begets like. So our poor leadership quality is rooted in our poor educational development. And I mean personal development, culminating in professional expertise and generating results after that same order. I'm speaking to you this morning as one of the privileged emerging leaders in Africa. And to let you into fundamental secrets of leadership by first of all addressing some of the gross misconceptions. Every time you mention leadership, the first thing that comes to people's mind is political leadership. The second that comes to their mind is political leadership. The third that comes to their mind is political leadership. Anytime you mention leadership, everybody's mentality in this part of the world is limited to political leadership. But that's a gross misconception. Leadership is a virtue required in all areas of human endeavors. So you have a leading lawyer. It's not a man voted for. It's a man whose legal expertise make other fellows in that profession refer to him. We used to have one in my great country, Nigeria, by name Rotimi Williams. He grew to become such a legal luminary that they began to refer to him as Timmy, the law. He was no longer a lawyer, he was now the law. By virtue of his legal expertise in legal practice. He wasn't president of Nigerian Bar Association, that's not his class. But he grew to become such a tower in legal practice. Another one was called Kehinde Shofola. When those ones appear in court, the court stands still. They are unusual authorities in their field. So there are leading lawyers. There are leading businessmen. Leading professionals. You may think of Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart Network of Malls in America. That's not a politician. But that organization serves a good percentage of the retail business in America. Think of a corporate leader like Bill Gates. That's not a politician. But think of the American nation without those leadership in various sectors equal to zero. Today, Africa clamors only around political leadership. And that's why we are as down as we are. A body is not made up only of the head, the hands, the legs, and all parts of the body is what defines the dignity of that body. This is so important. The first misconception is that leadership is all about political leadership. That is false. That's not correct. The second misconception is that some are born leaders. Nothing else can be further from the truth. Have you ever met a born pilot who has his uniform and has his beads and black suit, black trouser, white shirt, and then he goes to the airport, he said he's looking for a job. They say, what job? He said, pilot. Then he gets in there, they say, can we see your paper? He said, what paper? I'm a born pilot. Will you ever get a job? Have you ever met a born professor who appears in the university and say, can I see the chairman of the board? They say, why not? Say, well, I need to get a job here. I'm a professor. Oh, sure. And you have, in what field? He said, any field. Have you ever met a born doctor? Born, who has a theater, bought a stethoscope, bought knives and cutlasses. And then his certificate reads, born doctor. Would you allow him to operate on you? Well, except a native doctor. He can't be a born native doctor. Now you see, there are no born leaders. There are no born leaders. Leadership is a process of personal development and professional expertise, leading to unusual accomplishment. Another school of thought claims that leadership is entrusted on people or endowed to people or inherited by people. Now, if you are a world heavyweight boxing champion and you're about to die, can you will that title to your son? I say, my first son, I will this to you. Then they now ask him to come and defend the title. Then he goes to the rings because his father gave it to him. By the time they land him on the floor once, that's the end. They won't only count 10, they will count forever, he won't wake up. Because it cannot be inherited. Now listen to me. No matter how much you love your son, you can't will your professorial office or seat to him. That now I'm about to die. I'm a professor of psychology. You're a businessman. But you are my first son. I will this professorial seat to you. Then he carries your certificate and goes to look for a job. He will end up in prison for impersonation. You can't inherit leadership. That tells you again another problem with Africa, where governmental positions or political positions have become a dynasty of families. Now watch it well. That's why many companies in Africa don't see the light of the day after the passage of their founders. Because they are handed over to incompetent, underdeveloped people. You have companies today in America that are 200 years old. You have quite a number in Europe that are older than that. You'll find them there. Because of the way they run. They run with the understanding of posterity, how to live beyond the now into the future. Leadership cannot be inherited. Leadership cannot be imparted. I can't lay hands on someone and I say, now become a pilot. That would be a risk for him. Because it does not happen. Like I said, I'll be speaking to you on the ground of my privileged position as one of the emerging leaders in Africa that has been privileged to have some global sort of small recognitions here and there. And to let you know, it's not an issue of luck. There are steps to getting there. The first thing we want to do, therefore, is to define what is leadership. What is leadership? Leadership I have defined as taking the lead in your field. Taking the lead in your field is not a title that we wear. Leadership is in the values that we add. You are not a leading lawyer because you are tall. You are not a leading businessman because you look so. You are a leading businessman because you are taking lead in the business arena. You are a leading lawyer because you are taking the lead in legal practice. You are a leading academic because you are taking the lead in your own particular discipline in academics. You are a leading banker because you are taking the lead in banking profession by the kind of results your bank is getting. You are a leading minister because you are adding value to the lives of people in your area of ministry, like Billy Graham, for instance. Another great man here and there around the world today. It is not talking the lead or looking the lead, but taking the lead that makes a leader. It is not in filling positions, but making outstanding contributions. It is therefore not in occupying a seat. Leadership is in accomplishing a feat. That is, accomplishing the extraordinary. Therefore, leadership can be defined as leading the way, setting the pace, and blazing the trail in your field. Leading the way, setting the pace, and blazing the trail in your field. That means leadership is task defined. Your task must be first defined before your leadership potentials can begin to have expression. Your task must be first defined before your leadership potentials can begin to have expression. You must know where you belong. You know, jack of all trades, they say. What? Master of none. If you want to see my weakness now, let me just switch over to politics. And you see my weakness. Because I'm already off my field. Does that make sense? If you take a professor of pharmacy into history class, he will lose relevance. Even though he's a professor in the same university, but that's not his field. He may not be able to pick one thing in what anybody else is saying in that field. So I think our problem here in Africa begins with not being able to define our assignment. And so whatever comes looks like it. You know, if you don't know where you are going, anywhere looks like it. I went looking for one of my sisters one time, and I didn't know the address of where she was. So I picked a taxi cab in the town, and they said, "Where are you guys?" I said, "Just keep going." Then we go somewhere. I said, "Are you not there?" I said, "Okay, stop me here." Because I didn't know the place. Anywhere will look like it if you don't know where you are going. That's why we said where there is no vision, the people perish. Leadership is essentially task defined. Task defined. Task defined. Task defined. There will be people in politics, there will be those in business, there will be those in the corporate world, there will be those in public civil service. Each one making the best of his opportunity in adding value to where he is. If we are all selling spare parts because we have cars, who will buy? We'll kill the business. Everybody belongs somewhere. Find it out on time and stay with it. Everybody belongs somewhere. It is wisdom to find that out on time and stay there. Everybody belongs somewhere. Everybody belongs somewhere. It's important to find that out on time and stay with it. Everybody belongs somewhere. It's important to find that out on time and stay with it. Therefore, leadership is an achievement, not an endowment. It's not a birthright. It's a task accomplished right. Leadership can therefore be said to be a product of legitimate achievement. I use the word legitimate. Legitimate achievement. Legitimate achievement. That's why armed robbers don't build houses, because you'll find out where they got the money from. Hello? It has illegitimate money, so it cannot be given expression. Legitimate accomplishment. We are all aware that not every player in the field of sports ends up as a star, even though every player is a potential star. But how much each one puts into the game in his personal life is what determines his ultimate rating in that field. His investment in training, in dedication, in discipline, and sacrifice is what determines who becomes a star. There is a story of a young chap told. This chap in the early 19th century was a high school boy, and then asked his coach, I want to become a sports star. And he said, sure. The man said, sure. Do you really want to become? He said, yes. He said, there are 4 steps on the ladder to becoming a star in sports. He said, 1, determination. He said, 2, dedication. He said, 3, discipline. And 4, sacrifice. And this high school boy took this secret seriously and lined up his life with it. By the 1923 Berlin Olympics, he emerged a 3 gold medalist. 3 gold in their days. Even now, 3 gold is too much. He emerged a 3 gold medalist in the 1923 Berlin Olympics. And his long jump record took 22 years to be broken. He lived far above his own generation of sportsmanship. It took 22 years to be broken by trading those secrets given to him by his coach. It's not.
Thank you for watching this powerful message on leadership. I hope this message has changed your life. I hope this message has transformed your life. Kindly, if you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel, kindly subscribe, like, share, comment for more. Remain ever blessed.